کهکشان مقاومت ایران 1402 کنفرانس دادخواهی، محاکمه سران رژیم آخوندی به خاطر جنایات علیه بشریت و نسل‌کشی، سخنرانی‌های شخصیت‌های سیاسی و حقوقی، قانونگذاران، وکلا و کارشناسان ویژه ملل متحد از کشورهای مختلف جهان.
سخنرانی‌های سفیریوآخیم روکر، رئیس شورای حقوق بشر ملل متحد 2015، سفیر آلمان در این شورا 2016. لوییس، وکیل مجاهدین.
لوییس، وکیل مجاهدین. تحقیقات ارائه شده در دادگاه حوزه استکهلم که 92 روز به طول انجامید، شامل بیش از 11,000 صفحه از جمله کتاب‌های اسامی اعدام شدگان در سال 1367 و کتاب‌هایی است که توسط اعضای سازمان مجاهدین در اشرف نوشته شده است.
فتوای خمینی به طور معمول باید یک عقیده مذهبی باشد، اما این یک فرمان بود که میگوید هر کسی که در زندانها به سازمان مجاهدین خلق ایران وفادار بماند اعدام می شود.
مدارک ارائه شده در این دادگاه کاملا کافی است تا بتوانیم خامنه‌ای، ابراهیم رئیسی و نیری و همه کسانی که در این قتل عام دست دارند را محاکمه کنیم.
Brothers and sisters, and people of the resistance know what I mean when I say brothers and sisters, and I say also ladies and gentlemen. Brothers and sisters are the people who are fighting this regime every day from morning to evening, and I've seen it. I've had the honor and privilege to represent the NCRI and the People's Mujahideen in this trial. I might add, I've also been representing them and trying to help them as a lawyer since 2004 when I went down to Ashraf #1. I was part of the team that got them off the European Union terror list. And now, finally, we have a historic trial in a Swedish court where one of the perpetrators of the 1988 massacre has been on trial, and the trial is still going on. The last speaker spoke about the United Nations setting up a fact-finding commission. It's not a bad idea. I can tell you that the investigation presented in the Stockholm District Court is the best fact-finding commission that you can imagine. In this trial, which in the district court went on for 92 days. The investigation is more than 11,000 pages, including the books which Madame Rajavi showed pictures of and spoke of, the books with the names of the victims from the Mujahideen who were executed in 1988. These are part of the record of the Stockholm District Court. The material created by the JVMI, it's wonderful material. It's also included in the record of the Stockholm District Court. So, and the books written by members of the Mujahideen in Ashraf are also in the record of this court, where they point out not only this little fellow, Hamid Nouri, but Ra'isi himself, Khamenei, who was the president of Iran at that time, and shares responsibility with Ra'isi, Nairi, and all the rest of the names that you will see. The JVMI said that they've identified 70 people. I'm sure we can find a list that's much longer. You've already heard about Khomeiни's fatwa and what it meant. A fatwa normally should be a religious opinion. This was an order. There's another word, hukm, which we discussed in the district court. But okay, it doesn't matter. A fatwa made by the supreme leader becomes an order. It's not just an opinion. And what does he say? Anyone who remains faithful to the People's Mujahideen of Iran and who are in our prisons shall be executed. Quite simple. And someone quoted also the memoirs of Montessori, which we received much later, where he tells about the letter that was sent to Khomeini to ask, what do you mean? Should we have some kind of real procedure? What about people who have received a 15-year sentence? Are they suddenly going to be sentenced to death? And he just said, kill them all, was the answer. This is the information that we have had in the Stockholm District Court. And this information is better than what any fact-finding commission is ever going to be able to find, because we had also 34 plaintiffs who testified. The court moved to Durrës in Albania to be able to listen to the absolutely decisive evidence testimony presented by members of the Mujahideen who had survived the massacre and who were living in Ashraf 3. 2 weeks, the whole district court was, I think, 7, 8 people plus interpreters and all the rest of it. It was a pretty big operation. To Albania. You know, it says in the, where I'm presented that I represent 10 clients amongst the plaintiffs. That's absolutely true. Formally, I represent only 10. In reality, I represent this whole movement. And let me tell you what this movement did during this trial. You saw my client go around in Ashraf 3 in the fantastic museum that they built, which is reproducing the death corridor in Goardash prison. But not only did they do that, they made a film so that the court could understand what it looked like. And we showed that film in the court, and they were very happy to see that. But that still wasn't sufficient. So what did my clients do? They made a model of the whole prison of Goardash, which the court, we showed it to the court when we were in Albania, and they asked us, please transport it to Stockholm so that when everyone testifies, they can go to the model created by the Mujahideen so we understand where were they in the prison. It's an unbelievable effort that's been made by my clients in Ashraf 3 to make this trial the success that it has been. We have to understand also, the regime has not been passive about it. It's very strange, because before Ra'isi was elected president, they were rather quiet about this case. We don't really know why. As soon as Ra'isi came to power, he knew that in this trial, evidence was being presented every single day that implicated not only him, but the whole regime. And as a result of that, you will notice that the Iranian press has become more and more hysterical. The evidence that we've heard, we know what torture was. And go to the museum in Ashraf 3 and you'll see a clear picture of what real torture is. He's never been touched, this man. But he didn't get his tea sometime, and he was unable to buy new glasses. It's so hypocritical to say, they also claim that he's not getting a fair trial. A fair trial. He himself testified for more than 5 days. He had 2 lawyers in the first court. He has 2 new lawyers in the Court of Appeals. 5 days, when the people who went in front of the Death Commission had 5 minutes. And they claim that he doesn't have justice in the Swedish court. Now, this trial is, as everyone has said, it's not just historical. It is a step forward in realizing what is written on the wall there. Prosecute the clerical regime leaders. The evidence presented in this trial is quite adequate to be able to put Ibrahim, Ra'isi, Nayeri, Khamenei, all of them, and the 70 that the GVMI has, we can put them all on trial because these were people who saw them and knew what they did. The evidence has been presented, and we know not only that Hamid Nouri is guilty, we know that all of these leaders are guilty, and one day we hope that that evidence can be used to get them.
And it is my great honor and with the utmost of respect that I would like to introduce the very first of 3 speakers who will be addressing you. Please welcome the first of our 3 testimonies from Mr. Majid Sahebjam. Thank you so much.
من مجید صاحبجم هستم. به دلیل هواداری از سازمان مجاهدین خلق ایران در سال 1361 دستگیر شدم و در دادگاهی به ریاست حسین علی نیری در یک دادگاه 3 دقیقه‌ای به 12 سال زندان محکوم شدم. چند سال بعد به خاطر خاکسپاری پدرم به مرخصی رفتم. پس از برگشت از مرخصی یک اتهام جدید به من داده شد و اون هم جذب یک دانشجو برای سازمان مجاهدین خلق بود. برای این اتهام من به اعدام محکوم شدم. به هر حال پس از مدتی به حبس ابد محکوم شدم و خلاصه 17 سال در زندان‌های قزلحصار، گوهردشت، اوین و کمیته مشترک سپری کردم که در سال 1378 هم از زندان آزاد شدم. در این فرصت کوتاه میخوام به یک قطعی از قتل عام زندانیان سیاسی در سال 1367 و یک روزی که در راهروی مرگ بودم اشاره کنم. ما در اون روز در 15 مرداد از بندها به بیرون کشیده شدیم به وسیله همین ناصریان و آمدیم به این راهرو که بعداً راهروی مرگ گفته شد. بسیاری از دوستان من هواداران سازمان مجاهدین خلق اتهامشون پخش اعلامیه، تراکت، شرکت در تظاهرات و میتینگ ها بودند. بنابراین بسیار از اینها حکمشون تمام شده بود، ولی به خاطر اینکه سازمان مطبوعشون رو محکوم نمی‌کردند در زندان مونده بودند و به اصطلاح ملی کش بودند و یا بخشی از اینها هم در آستانه آزادی بودند. به هر حال ما نمیدونستیم چه اتفاقی میخواد بیفته، ولی همه منتظر بودیم که یک اتفاق بزرگی بیفته، چون وضعیتی که ما رو از بندها به این راه رو منتقل کردن وضعیت ناشناخته‌ای بود. خیلی از ماها حتی با دمپایی و بدون کفش ما رو از بندها کشیدن بیرون و به سرعت ما رو به اینجا منتقل کردن. خب قسمت دیگه از این ماجرا وقتی است که ما از راهروی مرگ به هیئت مرگ منتقل شدیم. ناصریان منو و سایرین رو به این محل آورد. در این هیئت من افراد رو می شناختم. خب شوشتری بود، نیری بود که قاضی دادگاه خودم بود، اشراقی بود و خب رئیسی. این هیئت تشخیص میداد که زندانیان مجاهد زنده بمونن یا اعدام بشن. یک سوال پس از احراز هویت تعیین کننده بود: اتهام چیست؟ وقتی از من سوال کردن اتهام چیست، من گفتم هواداری. اشراقی گفتش که این از گروه‌های منافقینه. بنابراین ناصریان منو کشید از این هیئت مرگ بیرون و منو مجددا منتقل کرد به راهروی مرگ. در راهروی مرگ دوستان من که از هیئت آمده بودند لحظات آخر زندگیشون رو با هم سپری کردند. با هم گفتگو می‌کردند، خوشابش می‌کردند، خداحافظی می‌کردند و شوخی می‌کردند و حتی سرود می‌خوندند و می‌گفتند که هر کسی زنده بود و زنده ماند نام ما رو و یاد ما رو به دیگران برساند. یک صحنه خیلی ماندگار در زندگی من وقتی بود که با یکی از دوستانم در این راه رو مواجه شدم. ناصر منصوری، کسی که از گردن فلج شده بود. او از انفرادی خودش رو به بیرون پرتاب کرده بود، بنابراین دیگه قدرت راه رفتن نداشت. او رو با برانکارد از بهداری به راهروی مرگ منتقل کردند. من در اون روز در این قسمت راهروی مرگ نشسته بودم، درست روبروی ناصر منصوری، و با او خداحافظی کردم. صحنه دیگر صف اعدام است. یک صف اعدام. آنهایی که حکمشون رو از هیئت مرگ گرفته بودند در این صف قرار می گرفتند. حمید عباسی یا حمید نوری اسامی اونها رو از دادگاه می گرفت. اونها در مرکز راه رو قرار می گرفتند. یک به یک اسامیشون رو صدا می کرد و اونها رو آماده رفتن به بندشون می کرد. اصطلاحی که برای بردن افراد به محل اعدام گفته می شد. برید به بندتون. در این صف دوستان زیادی رو من از دست دادم. جمشید شریعت، ابراهیم فدایی، محمد تقی جنابزاده، هادی صابری، عابد کریمزاده، محسن محمد باقر که او هم فلج مادرزاد بود. با اونها خداحافظی کردیم. دیگه اونها رو من ندیدم. اونها رفتند به قیمت جانشون راه آزادی مردم ایران رو باز کنند. و این اتاقی است که اونها وصیت‌نامه‌شون رو می‌نوشتند. بعد از اینکه وصیت‌نامه رو می‌نوشتند، اگر کسی ساعتی داشت ساعتش رو میشکند تا به خانواده و بستگانش بگه که ما در چه ساعتی اعدام شدیم. بسیار از خانواده‌ها دیدند که ساعت فرزندانشون شکسته شده. اینها کسانی بودند که در این مسیر قرار گرفتند، راه آزادی ایران. وقتی که این صف‌ها می‌رفتند و دوباره صف‌های جدید تشکیل می‌شد، حمید عباسی جعبه شیرینی می آورد و به سربازان و پاسداران و کسانی که در این جنایت دست داشتند شیرینی تقسیم می‌کرد و در نهایت به دیوار خودکارش رو می‌کشید و می‌گفت شورای مکرر مجاهدین.
سفیریوآخیم روکر، رئیس شورای حقوق بشر ملل متحد 2015 باید از کمیسر عالی حقوق بشر فولکر تورک و شورای حقوق بشر بخواهیم که یک هیئت تحقیق در رابطه با قتل عام‌های 1367 ایجاد کنند و این به نظر من نتیجه بسیار خوبی از جلسه امروز خواهد بود.
Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's very hard to follow on this very, very moving piece of one of the victims, survivors, but let me nevertheless say that I came here by conviction. I'm very clear in my support for JVMI. I think they deserve every support, and I think today's audience and today's events, 35 years after the massacres in 1988, bear witness to that. I think we owe a lot to the UN system, which is in a way working, especially the special rapporteurs on Iran. When I was president of the UN Human Rights Council, we commissioned and decommissioned several special rapporteurs. It's a working system. And we also did the same thing for commissions of investigations. And I think those are very important instruments for the international community, and they should be used. What is greatly satisfying is that the UN Human Rights Council on 24th of November 2022, in a special session on the situation in Iran, commissioned a fact-finding mission to investigate the alleged human rights violations in the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is related to the protests that started on 16th September 2022. And I think this is a very good thing that the Human Rights Council actually acted on all the terrible things we heard and are actually happening to this very day. And I hope the Commission will actually be able to find the facts behind the terrible news we hear and be able to address them, including lots of fates of individuals we have heard in the last couple of days and weeks. Now, of course, we all know, and the people gathered here today, by the way, I heard that a lot of survivors are actually in Albania. And in this context, I think we all agree that it's not enough that this commission of the fact-finding commission was set up for the ongoing persecution of people since the 16th September of 2022, but we would really, really want to see that something is happening with regard to 1988. And there's no better way, as to say this in a UN language that the international community understands than in the way that Asma Jahangir has in fact put it when she did her report and informed the UN Human Rights Council and informed the General Assembly. She said, and I quote, "Between July and August 1988, thousands of political prisoners, men, women, and teenagers, were reportedly executed pursuant to a fatwa issued by then Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. A three-man commission was reportedly created with a view to determining who should be executed. Over the years, a high number of reports have been issued about the 1988 massacres. If the number of persons who disappeared and were executed can be disputed, overwhelming evidence shows that thousands of persons were summarily killed. Recently, these killings have been acknowledged by some at the highest level of the state. The families of the victims have a right to know the truth about these events and the fate of their loved ones without risking reprisal. They have the right to a remedy which includes the right to an effective investigation of the facts and public disclosure of the truth and the right to reparation." And that's the end of the quote. And I think there's no better way to put it, and there's no better way that would be understood by the international community, because this is also a language that they will absolutely relate to. So I think we should jointly continue to appeal, as we've done in the last couple of months intensively, to the international community as such, but also to the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Türk, and to the Human Rights Council to set up an investigation commission into the massacres of 1988, and that, I think, would be a very good outcome of today's meeting. Thank you very much. All the best.